Glasses, the guy called Glasses. Okay. Um, so each person, do I need to call out their presentations, or will he just know to load them? Okay. Okay.
Sure. Okay. Mhm.
I'm probably gonna do Vanna and hit that mark. I'm a little bit out of the box. Yeah. If I had enough time, I would. This gave me inspiration. I mean, I was right there with Michael Jackson. He just had a concert here last
Oh
week.
yeah,
But
yeah.
Eric, you make sure I got your T-shirt by enough on time, girl. Okay, we're gonna keep that real. He made sure of that.
I don't have any slides. So.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, that's
I don't
fine.
have
That's
any
fine.
slides.
Okay.
When you see my slides, you'll say, "Oh, she doesn't either." It's just one word on
Okay.
each slide.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'll pull it
All
back.
right.
Okay.
He is gonna do it. It's not if he is gonna do it.
Okay.
He is.
Okay. For how long do you want us to keep you jumping? How long can you take? All right. Thank you.
Yeah. That's a lot of time.
Nice to meet you, Laura.
If not, he'll call you
Oh,
over to Open TA sometime. Very small. Okay, so when I'm gonna mention who you are when you come up, I want you to tell people who you are when you're telling your story, so
absolutely.
that way they can align it with you and not separate. I don't even write my own bio at the PR table. They already do it for me. Just whatever you put in there, that's no problem.
Right.
Mhm.
Honestly, when I read it, I go, "Wow,
I
she's
want to
like
meet that
awesome,
person.
right?" Then I go, "Who wrote that?
I know.
Who wrote that? That's like she's
I
like
know.
really like awesome." Jeez. I think they wrote one for me and I sent it to my son and I didn't put a name on it. And everywhere where they mentioned my name, I replaced it like with her or she. And he goes, "Mom, do you know her?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Wow, right?"
Oh my
So I
gosh.
just thought that was funny when he did that. Yes, sir. Yeah, I was getting ready to go over that. Yeah. All right.
Okay,
So
perfect.
when you come up, it's up here, and then like, there you go, Lori. You're up. So yours will be first, and then yours will come up when you come up. Yep.
Stop there.
I would
Okay.
talk to you, but I'm actually at the game, and I just get a text on my phone unless you're sitting on the side of the street. I really is not a good time for me to chat with you. There's a room full of people looking at me. Are you okay? Are you bleeding? Are you bleeding?
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go.
I
I
once
gotta go,
left
but I will call you when
an
I
out
get
of
back.
the office message.
All right.
If this is so urgent,
Okay.
call the 911.
Yeah.
So have you guys done this before?
I know.
Not here.
No. Okay, just know whatever I do is training. Just have a good time. I don't even think about who's in the audience. And he is going to time you. So when I'm sitting out there when 8 minutes goes by, you'll see me do like this. When it's like 2 minutes left,
Okay.
that means like, and then it goes to the next person.
Okay.
So if the next person can introduce the next person, that would be awesome.
Oh, I'm lucky. I don't have to
No,
introduce
no, when
him.
you're done,
I'm
I'm coming
last.
up.
I'm
And then
last.
you just have to, so then all you have to do is
I'm
say,
last. It's
I'm
her,
last.
then you.
so Lord,
I'm last.
introduce.
So let
So
me
here,
just.
this
Oh,
is our order. So Laura, I'm going to
oh, it's
introduce.
there.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it up here.
Oh,
So you don't
perfect.
have to guess. It's right here. So
Perfect.
I'm here.
Yeah, yeah.
Laura's here, and Laura, you're gonna say, okay, I want to introduce Kathleen, the vice president and general manager, and then you're gonna come up, right?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna say, and when you're finished, you say, now I want to introduce Dr. Charlene, M. Farmer, and then she'll come up. And then when she finishes, she'll say, okay, guys, Christine is coming back, and I'm gonna come up. You know what I'm saying? And then we're gonna go to Q&A.
Okay.
It's gonna be real simple. We're gonna have fun.
Woo!
It's too bad I couldn't get this table. I was looking for some lounge chairs, like some
I
living
know.
chairs.
Kind of formal.
Right, just informal, like. But
Yeah.
Ears, all right. Ears was like, they've been doing this for years. Like, so for 2 years, I've been doing this with them. And I was like, Ears, one of these years, I'm going to introduce my own log cabin out here. And I'm just going to put them in the
More like a fireside chat.
That's what I was, I think
Yeah.
that would be cool to do that, right?
Would be nice.
But they do it all official with the name tag. Oh, he didn't call his name tag.
Us.
Well, this is a nice crowd, though.
That's good. Right.
Yeah, it is. And one of my friends showed up that I didn't expect, Ursula, out there. I didn't expect her. I never expected her to come.
Yeah. This was good.
That was interesting. But this is a nice little group for this time of night. Because if it was me, I definitely would have wanted some gravy or something. Talking about lunch. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that's good. It is. That's really good.
Did you guys rehearse it before?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
who's singing?
I'm not tomorrow.
I'm gonna be moderator tomorrow.
I might do a few awards, come in and have a few awards.
Okay, and who's doing some awards?
Um, for the award.
So I'm gonna take. I'm gonna try to time it. Oh hi! Look, here go me. I'm like, why do I know this person? Why is this folks waving at you? How are you? Thank you. You as well. So are you? Are you? Okay. I'll see you afterwards. I'm just hanging out with all these smart ladies. This is a very impressive team. I know. And I'm just hanging out with them. Yeah. Exactly. I'm just hanging out with them. And after I finish, and I'll see you after I finish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
I think everybody thinks I'm at home. I could have swore I did all them people. Right. Like, what is it important? Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You know, did you guys go to the for the elevator? It's filling. Did you guys go to that session? It was really, really good.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it was really good. I was impressed. Those ladies knocked it out the
Really?
box. Oh my gosh, yeah. They did a great job. They really kind of dug into how women need to be more supportive of men,
Yeah.
and just really they would call it cattiness, but they were like, just stop. Like, you don't have to be the only one with women to be great. You can be great with other men and women as well. Yeah, and I was like,
Sometimes
I'm
it
so
gets
glad you said that.
competitive.
Honey, it's beyond competitive. And I was just glad that they actually said that in real time because I think a lot of women do think that they have to be the only one. Like when I started hiring people for my team, I was hiring women, and women were like, "Oh, we thought you were going to hire men. Why would I do that?" they on top of it. I haven't even been at work for 2 days. They still making the magic happen over there. That's what I'm saying. Like, if it was a dude, he'd be at home. But when my boss ain't at work,
Yeah.
so I said no. I hired these women, honey, so we could still keep that ball rolling.
Exactly. I am in the auto industry, and I've been working lately with the startups for the EV vehicles, well,
Fun?
electrical vehicles. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I haven't. Oh, nice. Yeah, it's challenging. We want to convince you that it's better than ICE vehicles. So we have to offer you the same or better, right? So that is what is challenging, and I do full vehicle testing. So I see all the problems with it, and I am the first one knowing what the customer is going to receive. And so it's exciting. So my regular car is a nice vehicle, but in my job, I have the fleet vehicle. So I do have our own car, which is endurance, and I have both prototype and commercial. I do have an EV6, a Tesla, a Ford Lightning. So yeah, pretty much exactly comfort, performance, the
Oh, I guess
features
I
they
should look
have,
forward to
how
it.
easy they make your life. So which one is your EV? Nice. I haven't tried that one.
Yeah, I don't like some use one car.
Exactly. No, it works beautifully for short commute, and I think the whole industry is working harder to make them for longer commutes. I went to Indianapolis with the Tesla. It's a fun ride. I mean, I
Yeah.
stop every hour and a half anyway,
She is deep in thought.
every 2 hours. But since you have to find a
Sharon,
super
what are you writing
charger,
about?
I had to plan my trip. I'm adult So, ADD, so but if it I was so write much my fun. notes before I speak, it doesn't matter. I'm a spatial learner, so if I write it, and I won't
I said
say
she
this.
is deep in thought.
I know. I
Focus.
wasn't gonna bother you.
And then I was like, well, maybe I should be writing some notes.
I know.
I was like, should I be writing
No,
notes?
I know. I had this corporate message that I was going to give, and I'm looking at these ladies who could have gone back to their home to get rest and food, and they chose to spend their late evening with us. I'm going to get a little personal. Oh, I'm going to get a lot personal. I was going to use this platform to share my brand and CVR and all that stuff. And they didn't want to start with it. Same thing. As any technology is going to get through a peak point. Right now, every expectation is unrealistic. Even for EVs, it's unrealistic. But for EVs, it's already landing into more realistic expectation, like short trips. Check, use it just for work commute. For hydrogen and nitrogen, it's going to be the same. At some point, it's going to stabilize that technology. It's going to be more realistic. At that point, components, fuel, everything is going to come down lower in prices, and it's going to be accessible for everyone. But it's also the same. It's fantastic that we are doing new stuff, different. And the other is same as we live it with EVs, the infrastructure. Where do you charge it? How do you charge it? And it all depends on your needs. So as the chief operating officer, I tell people that I do basically 7 things that help us to simple processes and also budget. If I line that budget in this direction, then hopefully we can start to make some savings. Right. Right. I was doing this training online about data analysis using Python and stuff. the professor was talking about we are all biased. Then what's the point? I do my analysis. It could be wrong. So
It's all about perspective. It is. It's 100% about perspective. It is. Oh, and something that you gotta and all the stuff and guys said it really comes down to perspective. And the way that you view it. Perspective is all different. Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah,
that is true.
yeah.
Oh, I got. Is the boss of me saying go? Oh, it's three.
It's 3 minutes.
Okay, because I was like, it got quiet. I was like, am I missing Eric who said go?
You should make them come up, I,
Oh no.
Oh, you mean the whole group?
yeah.
You know what? Hi. Look, I can. Yes.
I was somebody who still does the checks, the paper
Ooh,
checks.
honey, that's what I'm talking
I
about.
was like,
need,
I
did
don't
you get on one?
put
Did
no.
you get that thing check on your phone? On the bank?
No, I don't download nothing on my phone. I don't
You
do
know what?
QR code scanning. I don't do
How are
nothing. She done changed clothes and everything. She was on her earlier. Yes, you did something.
Chris,
Miss Chris, I'm proud of you. I'm gonna connect with you. I said,
you know what? You know what? You know me. Get on out there. You. She know me. Yeah, crack me up. Burkett, Christine Burkett. Y'all crack me up. I'm just gonna do a Wissene. You stop. She know me. Don't pay attention to her. Don't pay attention to her. I'm kicking her out. I'm kicking her out. I'm kicking her out. I swear. That's why I have to tell my story because people think I woke up like this. People don't even understand. This didn't happen to my 30s. My mother was a fashion designer, and my mother used to get angry with me because all I wore was khakis and white shirts because I was a kid. And I didn't care about fashion. I wore a ponytail, khakis, and a white shirt. That was my uniform. And she sent me a lab coat and embroidered my name on it because she was so proud of me, right?
How's that?
Okay, we ready? 20 seconds? Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, no, I'm going to let them know we're starting in 20 minutes, 20 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started in about 20 seconds. That's the countdown. Not that you can't continue to socialize, but you won't be able to hear from these brilliant women. I'm just up here hanging out with that group. We're going to keep it real. So if you can come on in and grab a seat so we can get started, because it's a lot of empowerment that's about to go down up in here. That's all I can tell you. By the way, when I finish, I'm going to sit down out with y'all. I'm going to be up in that seat so I can listen to what's happening over here. We're going to start this session, and if you weren't here earlier, it doesn't make a difference, but I made sure I changed my clothes. So some of y'all, like, she didn't have it on earlier. I didn't want to show up in the same outfit from the day. I felt like this was special, right? Y'all deserved a little outfit change. You know how Diana Ross do it at her concerts? I felt like it was a Diana Ross moment. Okay, so real conversation, just to be in this space. My name is Christine Burkett. I'm the Director of Digital Equity for the City of Detroit. I'm also the CEO of an IT consulting firm here in the city of Detroit. So I take tech and STEM very seriously for multiple reasons. And I also have a nonprofit where I support K-12 education, training and development for students because I was previously the CIO of Detroit Public Schools. So yes, each one of us come up, and I just want to let you know the brilliance that's sitting here, but as each person comes up, they're going to actually give you their bio in their 8-minute monologue about who they are and their why, okay? Because being a woman in this space is not always easy, and you'll hear that in my quick monologue. But before I get started, even before they come up, I just want to let you know who I'm up here with. You know, Laura's over here trying to play like she's meek, but she's a VP. We're going to keep it real. And so I just think she's adorable, but she's sitting over there being meek, and I'm okay with it too. And then we got Kathleen. She's a VP sitting over here too. And then we got a senior VP and a COO, and she's sitting up over here. That's Charlotte. So that's who's at this table. We're going to keep that real. Okay? So I just want to say when they come up, y'all better have them video cameras out. People at home, you better be saving this because this is some real conversation. You don't often have an opportunity to sit in a room with ladies like this and get the real talk. So at the end of whatever we're saying to you today that we hope really embarks something that you can move forward with so that you know that you're empowered to be the best you can be, we're going to take questions, right? Because we want to make sure that we're answering your questions. If we miss something, it's something we shared. So just to give you a tidbit about me, I always tell people it's very unfortunate that a lot of times in life people meet you in the space that you're in and they just assume that you've always been this person. But I'm going to tell you 12-year-old Chris, who played with Barbies, didn't know 10 years later she would be Christine with a job as a chemist. So that's a big jump in 10 years. So you think about your life in 10-year intervals. I didn't realize in that moment when I didn't talk at 12, I used to sit in my closet with flashlights after my mother said, it's time to go to bed, just to read books. And I swore she couldn't see that flashlight under that closet, right? But she later told me she knew the whole time what I was doing. And it's interesting because the same kid at 12, I told my mother at 14 that I wanted to be a scientist, but I really wasn't sure quite what I wanted to do. They took half of the garage and turned it into a lab just for me. I didn't realize what my parents were doing, which was allowing me to cultivate myself. And at the same time, I had a problem because a lot of people thought that I was mentally disturbed because I didn't talk a lot, but I would do my work and I was quiet. And I remember the teachers used to call my mother and say, she's just sitting in class, and I don't know if she's finished her work. My mother, and this was back in the day, you know, they had phones in the classroom, so you know this was back in the day. So my mother was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and she said, well, go ask her. And the lady would come over and ask me, that would be the teacher, and I said, yes, ma'am, I finished my work, and I'm just sitting here quietly. She said, well, why didn't you come up here? I said, because the kids tease me every time I finish my work faster than everyone else. I didn't want to be teased. I didn't want to stand out. So the entire time growing up, I basically conditioned myself not to stand out and to always be the person who sat in the background. So what that taught me over the years was that I could be brilliant in my own space, but I wasn't brilliant to other people because they thought I had a problem. So the teachers would go to my mother and they would say, well, Christine is not talking. My mother said she doesn't talk. Is she getting her work done? She said, yeah, we need to work on our social skills. But what they didn't understand is I grew up in a household where I had a younger sibling and an older sibling that were very rambunctious, and I was the kid in the middle. It was nothing for me to say. They said it all and did it all, right? So again, I learned how to just be brilliant in my own space. And the only way I could get around it to stop people from talking to me is that I made up my own language. And I decided that was the best way because if I annoyed you long enough by answering and responding to you in my own language, you would do what? Stop talking to me. So again, I conditioned myself to be what? Brilliant in my own space, which was a closet that I was creating. But then later in life, I found out that I love music. My dad was a music teacher, and I used to sit on the steps, and I grew up watching amazing talent come through my house. Anyone who's in gospel, from the Winans to whoever, has been in my house in my basement. And it used to be, I didn't know who they were because they used to just call me Little Edwards, who sat on the steps and looked through the post. And in that moment, I told my dad, I said, I think I want to play an instrument. He said, what instrument? I said, I don't know. So I just grabbed an instrument and I started playing. And my mother looked at me. She said, did you practice this? I said, no, ma'am. I found out that I had this thing that I can just pick up instruments and I could play them. It was just a talent. But what they didn't understand is the talent allowed me to use both sides of my brain. See, the problem I didn't know that I had really wasn't a problem. It was just quiet brilliantness. And brilliance sometimes can be looked upon as someone who has an issue, right? But what I didn't find out later until is when I studied to Luther Vandross and everyone else, and I could finish tests and I could memorize things. And before I knew it, I was sitting in a classroom where a teacher said to me, I'm going to give you more books to read than the other students. That woman was Mrs. Summit. Mrs. Summit became my best friend ever because she understood my quiet brilliance. My mother has always been my best friend because she understood that Christine, who didn't talk, really had this thing of just being uniquely her, and she allowed me to be that. Years later, when I became a chemist and I got my first job, I didn't realize that me not talking was an issue until I started my job, and my boss's wife said, we're going to New York, I got to get you together. Because when you walk in the room, you are the only black chemist. They need to know you are a woman of power. I didn't understand that. So my first St. John suit came from my boss's wife. She got my hair cut, and she said, now I'm going to teach you how to be an effective communicator. The thing she said to me was, if people can't hear you speak, then sometimes they won't see your work. You cannot stand in the back of the room. You cannot get lost in the crowd. You need to be uniquely you. You're a very intelligent woman, but you need to believe that, and other people need to see that. So what I'm gonna say to you is that at 12 years old, I was playing with Barbies. 10 years later, I was a chemist in the lab. 10 years after that, I end up being the person that I thought I could be, the person that stands before you. But it took that long because I've been smart since I was 10. I didn't find out I was pretty until I was 30. Okay? So ladies, I'm gonna say to you that when you think about your life in 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 years, those intervals change very, very quickly. Always look at where you wanna go and start strategically making sure you make those steps to get to where you wanna be. Because you're gonna look back and you're gonna find out that 10 years passed very quickly. And it went from Barbies to a lab coat, from a lab coat to sitting there in front of people and talking to them, of which right now, if either one of my parents were living, they would be shocked. One, I look like this. My mother would freak out because trust me, she was hoping she would see this, but it never happened. And two, because I was the kid that didn't speak. But I will say that every experience that I've had in my life, growing up here in the city of Detroit on Schoolcraft in Longacre, and being a kid that could have gone to any school that I wanted to, but I chose to go to a school that had music, and they had a planetarium. That sounds silly, right? That a kid chose a school because of music and a planetarium? Not to me. Cass and Renaissance wasn't the place for me. You know why? Because every kid there was smart. But in the school that I went to, I stood out because I was smart, and I didn't even have to talk. So sometimes, people, it's the uncomfortable places that you put yourself in that allows you to be the person that you need to be. And that's the reason why I'm here today, because I got placed in a lot of uncomfortable situations. That same person who looked at me and thought, okay, let me help her get her little outfits together, thank God for that woman, honey, because I still would have been wearing those khakis and that white shirt. And that is the truth. My boss said, I need you to go teach chemistry to kids who are in alternative school. Alternative school is a school where the kids go who get kicked out of regular school for any number of reasons. So why would you send this quiet kid who's wearing khakis and a white shirt to those kids, right? I thought it was a big mistake. The first thing I said to him is, I don't even like kids. Why are you doing this? And he said, you're the youngest one here. So we want you to go and share your passion. Guess what that taught me? Effective communication skills and how to share what I knew at a level where everyone could understand it. Little did I know that that was going to help me become a leader 20 years later. I never thought that those kids who stole my radio out of my car, who took my little stuff around the lab and trashed it the first 2 weeks, that I would be looking back at those moments saying, you know what, it helped me become the person I am today. Because of that situation, I can now take anything and break it down so anyone understands it. Because they taught me that being this smart right here doesn't mean that everyone's gonna get it when most people are right here, right? And that's the brilliance that we have in this room. You can always be the smartest person in the room. You can always stand in the back. You could get lost in the crowd. But if you don't take that step forward, and you don't have to be wearing St. John, that's not what I'm saying. But you gotta be, the visual that people see is what they expect when they see you, right? And so I'm gonna say thank you to my boss's wife. I'm gonna say thank you to my mother, because if it wasn't for those two ladies, and also Murder, She Wrote, because I used to love Angela Lansbury and her outfits. Keep it real. Some of y'all don't know about that, but Angela Lansbury was wearing them outfits. Wasn't she? In them Coach bags. Don't fool with that, okay? Angela Lansbury, right? But y'all watch, see Angela Lansbury. We're going to keep that real. That's where I got my little fashion from, right? And so from that, I've been able to start a company. I've been able to work in different areas and be able to pick up what I needed to learn very quickly. So I'm gonna say in my time, because my time is over, understand who you are, and it's okay to be you. But when it's your time to step out, always make sure that the confidence that you have permeates even when this is closed. You don't always have to speak for people to see and hear your brilliance. My dad said one thing to me. He said, Your work speaks volumes before you even walk through the door. Do you understand? And they will associate your work with who you are. So when they say Christine Burkett, it should be followed by, she gonna get it done. Thank you. And now we're gonna have, thank you. So I'm gonna say, Laura's getting ready to come up. So get your cameras out. And guys, she's got her PowerPoint, so get ready. Laura, I'm gonna leave that up for you.
So thank you, everyone. I am Laura Luengo. I am a leader, a patent co-author, and I work right now at Lordstown Motors Corporation. I've been an engineer for over 18 years in different automotive components. I've been exteriors, interiors, a little bit of powertrain, chassis. Whenever I was needed, I was there. So I'm just gonna skip my bio. You can find it online, that's fine. But I want to talk to you about how did I got here, because when I was a kid, I started working when I was 9 years old. My parents had a little company. They dedicated training to leadership. So I was taking pretty much that training to helping them going through their own company. Nobody realized I was good at math and physics. Nobody. One of my professors told me, "You are so young to be here. You are like it looks like you skipped 1 year to get into primary school." This was back in Mexico. And she told me, "That's a problem, because then you cannot be smart in mathematics and physics because you are too young, you're immature." Well, I was the only one getting A+ in only those 2 things. The rest, I was really bad. English class, bad, C. So that school wasn't a struggle to me because I had so many issues speaking out. And my father was really concerned about it because he was a public speaking teacher. And I was shy. And I was hiding behind my mother or behind my father. So he really worked through it when I was in high school and so on. So I made it to high school in a public school in Mexico. And I don't want to tell too much about it, but some professors weren't really professional. So I just skipped the classes, calculus, mathematics, physics. But my chemistry professor didn't give up. He told me, "You're good. What are you doing?" He sent me to some contests. I was nervous, make it only to the first round. But at some point in the summer, I needed to catch up with physics and maths, right? I skipped the class, but I still have to pass the grades. So the professors at the summer were different. They came from another campus. That was the strategy of the school to help students that were not performing accordingly. And they told me, "What are you doing here? You're really good at this." Really? Am I smart? What are you going to do for life? I'm going through theater. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to write theater stories and stuff. "No, you're going to be an engineer." "What? Do they make money?" And I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know it was a career and people was making money about it. And I was like, "What? Just people get money for using screwdrivers and drills and stuff like that?" How I didn't know this? So they walked me through it. And I started my career, mechanical engineer and industrial. I do love logistics because it's like coordinating a wedding, pretty much, just in bigger volumes. And mechanics, well, physics are so natural. You don't have to invent anything. They are just what they are. So I chose the engineering path. It was a struggle for me because you can imagine going through high school. Everyone else in Mexico, since high school, they're dedicated through areas: arts, human, engineering. And I was in arts and human. So I didn't have calculus classes, I didn't have physics classes, I didn't know what a vector was in my first semester in the engineering bachelor. So I had to take extra classes. I took 2 additional years to make my full bachelor. And I went through all of that. So since I acknowledged from the beginning that I was behind the others, I never assumed I was smart. I always thought I have to be better than the others because I am behind. At some point, I was the better at it, right? I was teaching the guys, and I was never an A+. Seriously, I am here a B+, maybe an A in certain things, but I focus more on the strategy than the grades. I got the regular comments from the guys, right? "What are you doing here? You're gonna get married anyway." And I just roll my eyes like, "Oh, that's flattering. Do you think I'm gonna get married one day?" That's funny. And
From my mother, I got that, but that's a career full of men. Are you sure? I think they're going to hurt you. Well, you should be worried about them, Mommy. I mean, I'm really reckless. So I break the mold. I went for it. I break the mold. I was the first one in my family being an engineer. Probably in my mother's side, for many generations, the first one even getting a degree. So for my mom, it was really, really hard to support me. Every semester, she wanted me to drop out because she saw the struggle, she saw me getting the effort. But since I was get used to work, since I was young, I thought, I need to get hands-on. So I was in the middle of my bachelor when I started working in the automotive industry. In Mexico, that was, back then, 20 years ago, right? That was not a problem. You could be mid-career, and they will still give you a job as an engineer until you finish it, and you can get certifications. So I started there. I spent the first years of my career in Mexico, and then I came to the US, and I got this cultural shock in between. So in Mexico, and this is something very still hard for me to understand and digest, I even once got trade secret, and I was the lead engineer for it. I was the black belt lead engineer for the team. But the manager at some point, he thought, you know what? We're going to remove your name. We're going to put the intern's name of my team. Because I was doing a cross-functional team, so he was not my manager, and he felt entitled to remove my name and put someone else on his team. That crushed me. That totally crushed me, and after 10 years working in Mexico, where I navigate through different levels, always thinking I'm not enough because I'm always behind, right? I went to school thinking I'm always behind, so I went to work thinking I am always behind. The thing is, in the last year in Mexico, my supervisor and manager, they came from the US, and they showed me a totally different approach. So when I told my manager what was happening, what I moved into the different area, what I wanted to do something different, and I told him the story about the trade secret, he told me, that shouldn't happen. It's not okay. Nobody should have to take the credit from you. It was the same company. And I was in shock, like, are you telling me there's a different way to do it? Are you telling me that I deserve the credit to be the lead of the team, that was my idea in the first place? And he tried to really compensate it. He tried to recognize every job I did, everything I did, but it was too late. My heart was broken. Damage was done. Someone took recognition from me. But where I learned about it, I'm very, very careful nowadays. Whose idea is from? Who's working on it? Who's participating? Give credit to who deserves it. So when I came to the US, it was a little bit on the opposite side. People was telling me, hey, that meeting was great. When I was in Mexico, I got one time when I wanted to move into a different area, the feedback that I was very professional, but a troublemaker. And I didn't quite catch how those two things combine together. You cannot be very professional and be a troublemaker. That doesn't make any sense. But I started realizing, wait a minute, something is weird here. So in the US, in my first job in here, my supervisor told me, hey, Laura, that meeting was great. So the supplier was going through a certain bunch of money increases into the quotation and so on, and I was telling him, no, you did a change in this date, then a change in the other one, and then you did this and that. I don't agree with your increases, because you did changes that I was not notified, but they're properly documented. So this is not a misunderstanding. Data is there. So my manager was delighted, and he told me, you can even make your voice higher a little bit more. And he told me, I like that background you're wearing today. That was a shock to me, like, wait a minute. In Mexico, they told me to lower my voice a little bit so I don't look like a troublemaker, and you're asking me to raise it? That doesn't make any sense. So from there, I started asking feedback. I always thought feedback is a gift, so I usually ask for it. But when I was in Mexico, I used to focus on, tell me how can I improve? Not anymore. Tell me what is my superpower. I'm going to focus in the things that I am already good at it. I'm going to optimize them. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to make it my own branding. So that was my cultural shock when I came to the US. And at some point when that started to get through, I realized I need to go to a place where they need me. So I swapped from big automotive companies to startups, where I needed to wear different hats, so I never got bored. If I learn from one component, then I move into the other, then I help someone else, because there is always something good to do. I work at the plant, I teach the operators myself, I did my own assemblies on the vehicles, I did whatever I had to do to learn and to grasp better the needs of all my customers, going from the operator who is doing the assembly of my design all the way through the end user, driving the car myself, looking at it myself through different lights. And that's how I got experience in so many things, because I was never afraid to learn a new component or a new development. And I was grasping all the automotive, and I was digesting the auto industry. At some point, that was it. I already did a powertrain, I already did chassis, I already went through interiors, exteriors. What's left? Electronics? No, I don't really look that. There's too much noise in the signal. So I took this position. It was very special because my director, I thought, he's going to see me. He's going to promote me someday. Well, no, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. But I talked to my manager, one level below my director, and he told me, you got to go to a different area. And you know what? I think full vehicle level, that's yours. Testing the full vehicle. There is where you're going to shine. And he was right. I moved into the vehicle integration team. I had a conversation with the director. This was the first time when I was going to get people reporting directly to me. We worked through it, and we created this position just for me. The things that I know how to do, the things that I am best at it, and the things that I want to provide to the company. So we created my position with 5 positions below. And I learned so many beautiful things about leadership. One of them is through my whole career up to this point, I thought, I don't like politics. That's what I don't want to go up to the ladder. That's not for me. Leadership is not for me because it's all about politics. And what I find out in the first meeting is politics are so easy. You just sit in the chair, in the head of the table, and you look at everyone's reaction, body language, their voice, their intonation. You read through their emotions, and then you realize who is who's usually losing control over meetings, who's prepared, who is not, and who plays certain games, and what are their strategies. And with that information, you start making decisions and moving along your meeting and then moving along the decisions. So I was sitting in front of the chief engineer and the vice president of engineering leading their meeting because I knew when the conversation was getting off limits. It needed to be offline. And when the conversation was really important and they needed to make a decision and keep up focus. So at the end of it, politics was a great thing for me through my career. So as I kept discovering through the leadership, something I really learned through testing, and I would like to share this with you. I was in Death Valley in the park. So it was about 45 Celsius, maybe at 120 Fahrenheit temperature. We're testing vehicles. If we need to fix them, we do it under the sun. That's a condition that we have to test to make sure all of you are comfortable with our cars and that you can make it out of Death Valley in your vehicle. So we test all those conditions. What if the vehicle fails? What if the vehicle is run out of range? What if you are lost in the middle of Death Valley? And at some point, the team was yelling at each other. They're tired. They are dehydrated. They have been testing for several days under the sun. But the vice president of engineering approached me. I know it's complicated. I know these are extreme conditions, but it doesn't have to be miserable. And with that perspective, I changed everything I do. It's going to be tough. It's going to be my first time. I don't even understand the half of the job description. Hey, it doesn't have to be miserable. Those things that are not into the job description are the things that the company offers to me, right? So nowadays, I take a job position just with the half of it. Why? Because I'm bringing the half of the experience, and they are giving me the other half that I don't know. That's what is interesting to me. You're bringing me something, right? An opportunity for learning. So I would like to leave you just with some conclusions for my career. Discover your learning methods. Some of us needs to learn to read, some of us needs to listen, some of us needs to be hands-on and do it ourselves to understand and be empathetic with others. Find your sponsors and mentors. That was so complicated for me, especially for my sponsors. Mentors, it's everyone who I ask a question, that's my mentor. But for a sponsor, it's those people that are gonna talk to you on your back when you are not there. And I didn't know I had so many. Feedback is a gift. The sooner you get it, the better. But when you ask for feedback, focus on what are my superpowers and what are my blind spots. The things that you don't see. The things that no matter how you're doing, but you don't see it, you don't realize, because those are usually psychological patterns that you can break. There's nothing to be afraid about it, and it's really good when you have a mentor or a peer that really cares about you and tells you those things. Change your vocabulary. I'm very excited instead of I'm very nervous, because I'm sharing to you some of my life instead of being nervous about it. Emotions are easier to digest one way or the other, right? Propulsion, excitement is more about propulsion. It's gonna move you through along. And then just because I'm from the auto industry, right? Don't be afraid to use your brakes. We are all designed to brake hard. You can resist it, believe me. You have more performance than what you think. And I've seen it with every single car. You can totally make those wheels cry. Accelerate whenever you want. And if you don't like it, again, you can brake smooth, brake hard, whatever you want. It's your career at the end of it. And the most important thing about vehicles and career is it's about the journey. Sometimes you're gonna go up, sometimes you're gonna move lateral. It really doesn't matter. It's about the journey. It's about the stories you can share, right? It's about the things you learn. Some of them are gonna crush you, but you don't let to stay there. You don't let anyone to let you crush you. You just, you know what? Next, I learn. It'll never happen to me again. The next time, I am submitting the trade secret myself, so you don't have a say. And that's pretty much it for me. So let me introduce you. Thank you. To Caitlin Jolivet, VP General Manager from Boeing Company. The sky is not the limit for aerospace or us.
I was just thinking I might want to be an engineer now to test cars every day. Sounds like a cool job. But thank you. Thanks for the introduction. I am, honored to be here. I'm the leader for the vertical lift division at Boeing, which means I get to be the leader of all things helicopters, right? So Army helicopters, U.S. Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps. So we serve a wonderful set of customers. Much of my team is here tonight causing trouble. So a lot of girl power in the room. But just a little bit about my journey. I think we all take there's some twists and turns in all of our journeys, but I grew up on a reservation in South Dakota, about 1,000 people in my town, so about 50 in my high school class, really small, single parent, single mom, but we were like best friends. So I grew up right out of high school, I joined the U.S. Army. Go in the Army for about 8 years, meet my husband. We decide to get out of the Army and we settle in St. Louis. And I said, well, I'm gonna go get a job. You know, I worked for a couple small manufacturers, had no idea what I wanted to do. Worked in a warehouse, receiving parts in. I ended up in those companies being a quality manager, a production manager, which I had no background in, but they threw me right in the deep end of the pool, and they gave me a shot. So after about, 7, 8 years, tough times came about, and I got laid off. So I go home, and I think I cried for a week, stayed in bed, and my husband, came. He's like, hey, we have 2 kids, and we like to eat, so we kind of need you to get out of bed and get up on your feet. So I decided, hey, I'm going to have to go back to school and get my degree if I want to be competitive in this world. So I did just that. Our two small kids, my husband, a lot of sacrifice of time, but go back to school. I learned that I loved accounting. Now, that may not sound exciting to you all, but for me, I just loved the numbers. And so I'm in class one day, and one of the professors says, hey, this company called Boeing is here, and they're doing a career fair. I think you should check it out. So I go. Never heard of Boeing. I don't know anything about Boeing. Don't pay attention to things that fly. Grew up in a small town. Nearest mall was 100 miles away, right? So I'm pretty sheltered, but I go check them out, got hired on the spot in an internship. So I'm very excited. I go home, call my mother. We talk daily, call my mother. Guess what? I just got a job, and I'm not even done with school yet, but they're going to let me do an internship until I finish. It's going to be so cool. And she's like, She's like, Boeing, what's Boeing? So I said, they make airplanes, and commercial airplanes. No, well, that's great. She was excited. We talk about other things. Next day, I get a phone call from her. Hey, so I was thinking about this Boeing thing and the fact that they make airplanes. And she said, you're not going to be making the airplanes, are you? And she said, because you know absolutely nothing about making airplanes. And I said, no, don't worry. I'm going to be on the finance side, the business side. And she said, oh, thank goodness, because I was worried, right? So, this journey about the sky is the limit, right? Is it? Is the sky the limit? When you think about that, ask an astronaut. Probably the sky's not the limit, right? So throughout my career, I think there's been challenges, Another piece in my career, I never thought I'd be where I am today. Never had a paper that said, I want to be a vice president. Heck, where I was growing up, I didn't even know what a vice president was. And so as I go throughout my career, lots of learning. I came from a culture of, be quiet, stay quiet, children are over there while the adults talk. And from a Native American background, we're just naturally reserved and quiet. Well, when you go to corporate America, you cannot be reserved and quiet if you want to be in a leadership role. So throughout my career, I've had mentors, and they saw something in me that I didn't see. And so when you think about the sky is the limit, I learned throughout with Boeing and with mentors that the sky is definitely not the limit. And there's more that I can do. And despite all of the challenges of, I've had many opportunities, learning opportunities in the company, like, hey, we think you should go to this class. We think you should take this speaking class. We think that you should learn how to put a presentation together. We think you should, I had all these classes that I had to go to, and after a while, I was very frustrated. And one day, I got a brand new job. I was a director, and about a weekend, an email comes in. Congratulations, you get to go to another class, right? and I was so mad. I was frustrated. I go home, I was crying, and my husband's like, so wait a minute, the company wants to invest in you and send you to a class and you're mad? I'm not sure I'm getting this. But it was just that one more thing that I thought, hey, am I good enough or not? And then I decided I'm going to embrace it. Because who knows where this is going to go? So I did. I also have a coach. Why? Because there's always improvement. There's always things I have to do to get better. And I learned just to embrace it because the sky is not the limit. So today, as I lead an awesome team, I'm super excited about it. And we talk about, you know, that one more thing in that backpack that you're like, one more weight, one more class, one more thing throughout your career is embrace it and take advantage of it. And, you know, we were talking earlier about being the one. I like being the one. I love it. I serve a customer, an Army customer, a Navy customer, and 99% of the time, I'm the only woman in the room with a lot of men who are counting on me to support them. And I love it and I embrace it. So I just want you to know the sky is definitely not the limit. So just go for it. All right. We are going to bring up Dr. Charlotte Farmer, the Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer.
I want some of that greatness. Woo! Can you guys give me some of that love too? Oh, just for that, I'm going to keep it short. I love you too. So, guys, you could have gone to your room. You could have gone to dinner. You could have just gone shopping. But you chose to be here. So we are going to keep it real, and we're going to say something to somebody that's going to touch a heart. I exist for 2 reasons: to love God and to love others. That's it. Everything falls to the wayside. I believe in an abundance and that there is enough for all of us. And that plays through my journey. Now, let me tell you why. I was 9 of 10 kids. Almost a baby. Yeah. I don't know how she did it. And I didn't really know I was poor until I got out of college. I didn't know I was poor. Because my mom never said no. She would always say, okay, baby, you can have it. You're just going to have to work for it. Okay, baby, you can have it. But you know, need is the mother of invention. My mama was talking about innovation 55 years ago before anybody knew what it was. She just was like, okay, if you need it, you're probably going to have to invent it. But we can do it together. You're going to get it. Whatever it is. I didn't even know I was broke. But like I said, I figured it out when I gotten this Kodak scholarship. Okay, Kodak, when Kodak was cool. Okay. So I got this cool Kodak scholarship and pay for everything, right? And I go through the lines to get my books, to register for classes. I'm like, yeah, I got this. And I get to the end of the line, and there's like, well, how are you going to get your meal ticket, your meal plan? And I just stood there. I was thinking, oh, gosh, where am I going to find a phone to call my mama and tell her I got to come home because I can't eat? There is no money. There's no money in my family to send me to eat. So I'm going to lose this scholarship because of a meal plan. And oh, by the way, I'm a single mother. So I got to feed my baby. Can't feed myself. I can't feed my baby. And so a dean, I'm just standing there holding up the line. I'm sure they were moving chairs, moving tables, and I'm just standing there. I'm sure there's a gospel song about what I'm talking about. But I'm just standing there, and the dean of engineering, Dean Swisher, comes up, God rest his soul, and he says, "What's wrong, my darling?" And I said, I can't eat. I don't have money to eat. He said, "Well, we'll figure it out." And the next thing I know, I got a meal plan. And that was my first pivot. So what I want to talk to you guys about is these powerful pivots in your life. I think Kathleen mentioned there is no linear path. Things happen, and you have to be agile. You have to reinvent yourself sometimes. You have to lean in with courage and your conviction and your belief and your tribe, your village, your support group. Powerful pivots as it relates to generational succession planning. Now, that's just a big word for identifying talent and developing that talent so that they can move forward into powerful roles. Now, that's what I'm going to wrap up with, but you need to understand my story so that that makes sense. So here are a few more powerful pivots. That first pivot was, got to the top, going to chemical engineering, almost lost it because I didn't have enough money to eat. Thank God. Got to Kodak, hit a cement. You guys heard of glass ceiling. I hit a cement ceiling. I call it cement ceiling when you don't even know what's above. You can't even see what's above you. That's how hard my ceiling was. So it became very, very clear that I needed to pivot. So I went to business school and got a MBA and ended up going to New York to work for a general management consulting firm. Found out when I was in Hong Kong for my second year of business school that they were recruiting me. And so when the partner called me, I thought it was a joke. I literally thought it was my colleagues pretending that I'd gotten a job just to try to make me sweat a bit. So I hung up in his face. I did. And he called back and he said, "Don't hang up in my face." And long story short, got the position. I'll give you the backstory over dinner. 10 years I was at Booz Allen. I was supporting defense, all of the services, and I did learn how to salute as a civilian. After that, I pivoted because my husband basically said, I raised all these children. I told you about my village. I had everybody in church helping me raise my children. Braiding hair when I was in business school, doing everything it took to keep all the people fed in my family. I had 3 children. So my husband says, I'm not doing this anymore. The children are teenagers. There's a teenage daughter. You guys know what that means. You got to do this. So I had to pivot. I had to find something that would allow me to be a better mom, because I was a terrible mom. And if you guys are watching this live streaming, yeah, that's right, I was a terrible mom. And so I went to a federally funded research center, and I supported Homeland Defense. Gave me an opportunity to be a better mom, got a doctorate degree in systems engineering. It gave me a chance to self-care, self-improvement, this notion of generational succession planning, which I promised to get to. So I did that for a while, and then I got to a point where I was in a position of operating an enterprise. That systems engineering degree where you're thinking about everybody's perspective, systems of systems, complex thinking. I got to a point where I was responsible, and I was sharing with my colleagues here, responsible for people, processes, infrastructure, technology, budgets, communications, and risk, bringing all of this together to deliver a mission, a product, a service for our customers. And yet I still wasn't there. It was elusive to me. What do I have to do? And so all of you who have stayed behind, I'm going to share with you what I perceive as a solution, a solution set for this notion of, a cement ceiling. The first thing I did was I had to create this personal strategy. And this was a 5-point strategy that required multiple people to help me implement. It included spirituality, physical fitness, and I am clearly not there yet, financial fitness, professional, and social / impact. And what that means is I needed an advisory board for each one of those areas. The person that's going to talk to me about my 401k and paying myself first before I start spending money on shoes is different from the person who's going to talk to me about calisthenics. Very different. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying that we need to surround ourselves by people who are different from us, who can unlock those blind spots, who can tell us we're ugly and our mama dresses us funny, right? Who can just get in under there because they're coming from a place of love and they care about you. Now you got to ask yourself, how am I going to find an accomplished person to actually be my sponsor, my mentor, my guide, my advocate? We'll talk about that offline too, maybe during Q&A. But in my last 3 minutes, I want to talk to you about this notion of how all of that comes together for generational succession planning. And this came to me because I was recently in Kyoto, Japan, and I was surrounded by a bunch of Nobel laureates, not just peace, but chemistry, physics, and the Nobel laureates. And I'm in this situation where I consider these people of power, people of brilliance, and they too experience challenges. And one individual, top of the game in our nation, says, a lot of people come to her for references, right? And so she said, I use ChatGPT to, give me the 70% solution for reference letters. You got to start somewhere, right? So she said she noticed that for every reference letter she did, now every might be hyperbole, for most of the reference letters she did, ChatGPT said at the end, and some of the notable awards include Nobel in this area, Nobel Prize in this area. And she said, none of those people, none of them had a Nobel recognition. Now, what does that mean? Here's what it means. It means that all of these individuals had the opportunity to be a Nobel laureate, but did not have it. And so I bring to you this notion of generational succession planning because there is a way to unlock your potential for yourself and for others so that you or a person in your village will have the opportunity to be recognized or be that Nobel laureate or be a Bayer winner or a WOC winner or whatever. So just 3 things I got for you. Scale, partner, and lift as you climb. Those last 3, and I'm going to sit down. What do I mean by scale? Here's what you do. Individually, that's all people will know. Now, in this world of social media and more, we can quickly scale each other. A cat, a dog, or doing something stupid, that'll quickly get you some hits. But I'm talking about from your professional perspective. How are you going to scale yourself? Well, one way you can do is just nominate yourself for an award. That's right, nominate yourself. If nobody else would do it yourself. Yes, that is right. It wasn't until I got my Bayer Award that the people at my company even knew who I was or what I did. One guy actually said, I didn't know you were that great. And I was like, I didn't either. But all of a sudden, the doors opened because they saw me. Nominate yourself or nominate someone in your village. That's easy. The other thing you can do, you might think, well, I'm an individual contributor. I'm a middle manager, I might even be a fellow, but I'm a tribe of one. How am I going to scale myself? Well, you can do that by joining boards. You can push past and provide more impact by doing a volunteer board that serves millions, by doing a paid board that serves trillions. Join a board. If you're not getting that opportunity at the office, get it outside of the office. You see what I'm saying? Don't allow yourself to be stifled in any way. Scale yourself. Say yes. You always say, just say no. I'm saying say yes. And find a way to say yes to positive things, ladies. All right. Partner. What do I mean? Everybody's talking about partnership, public-private partnerships. I'm simply saying this. There are different levels of partnerships. Everything from I agree with you, I'll give you a check mark, a heart or something, to a contractual memorandum of understanding, a memorandum of agreement, or a no-kidding contract. There's levels of partnerships. My point is this. I've said it throughout this conversation. You can't do it alone. Cannot do this alone. Let me know if you know of anybody that's accomplished anything alone. Find a partner. Now, I'm going to tell you, I tried to find a partner, and this woman shut me down. She was the only other black woman in a company of 10,000 people. And people, the first thing you do when you go to a company, you the only, people start pointing to that other only, the other. And I'm walking, I'm like, okay. I'm Charlotte, hi. And she's like, okay, I don't have any more space to mentor. This happened 20 years ago, and I'm still talking about it, so you can imagine. You can imagine I felt some kind of way. So, what did I do? I found some white men. Yeah, I did. I found anybody who would help me crack the code on tough situations. If I was in a meeting, after the meeting, I would call my friends and my challenges, and I would say, how'd the meeting go? And they asked me, how do you think the meeting went? And I said, well, if I knew how it went, I wouldn't be asking you. Because I need you to help me with my blind spots, and I need you to be my Rosetta Stone. Because people will speak in, not tongues, but people will speak in code. And my mama didn't raise a child that understands code. If she said, do the dishes, thank you. Thank you. It was no guesswork. So, you got a partner. You got to find somebody who's going to crack that code. Last, and I'm going to sit down. Lift after you climb. Now, I know there was a glass ceiling discussion. Come from a place of abundance. Can we do that? Can we lift as we climb? Can we offer awards? Can we do whatever it takes to help others as we move along? Can we do that? Yeah. There we go. Ooh, let's go back to the, there we go.
Are y'all finished? Because that, what's happening? I was like, I just want to say the only reason why I came up because I knew Eric was going to give us, the hook. Eric is pretty precise on timing. He's being so sweet to us. So I want to say everything everyone said. Were you guys inspired? Right? I was going to say I was 100% inspired. I got to go get busy. I got work to do. I got to get it together. I don't know about y'all, but I got to get up on my business. One of the things that I would say that the commonality between all of us is that even though we all started out in our own little small spaces, right, not even knowing who we were, It was just the opportunities, like she was saying, that pivoted. I mean, I cracked up laughing when you were like, one more class, like you were done, right? Because I've been there where I was like, are you playing with me? What is happening? I just finished with this one. But, but then your husband was like, they are paying for it. Are you crazy? They investing, and then you had me cracking up when you were like, what do you mean? So if I come here, I'm smart, but if I'm over here, the same company, what, I'm not smart? What is happening? I can't talk, but over here, you want me to talk? See, all of us have experienced these moments. And the thing is, ladies, the commonality is you can see yourself probably in all of us. And now you see us where we are right now. Everything that we went through got us to this point, and we're still not finished. I tell my son all the time, my greatest accomplishment in life is you. All those letters, numbers, and stuff, and I swear we'll probably have a full sentence in a paragraph where we put all of our credentials and line them up. People who know me, I never put any of that stuff down because at the end of the day, I'm just Chris Burkett. None of that stuff matters. I did it because I could do it, because I wanted to do it. It doesn't change who I am, right? And that's what I like about all of these ladies. They didn't even introduce themselves as any of the things, their titles. I was so impressed. They introduced themselves as who they were, their name. And that's one of the things I want to say to you ladies. Take pride in your accomplishments, but when you're around your people who are there and you're trying to build that village, step back outside of that, because at the end of the day, you're just who you are, right? So now we're going to take all these questions, because y'all need to be lining up, because I'm getting ready to ask some questions. So let's start with our Q&A. You can ask us everything but our social security number. Let's do it. Any questions? Y'all kind of quiet. What? Okay, then you know what? Christine is always open for a question. So how many of you have taken classes in order to improve yourself professionally? Okay, how many of you have done it on your own without your boss telling you? All right, okay, get down on it. Now, how many of you aspire to be in leadership? Now, that's impressive. Now, how many of you going to go to the mic and ask them how you get to leadership? That's the question I want to know. How many of y'all going to do that? Because it's not easy.
Hi, I'm Smita. I'm from Lidos. I want to grow, and I always keep asking people, hey, for feedback, and even when my daughter goes to any place and she gave me a feedback, I tell her, feedback is the best thing that you can get. Because this is not for now, but it's for your future self. So recently, when I was introducing myself, I always downplay and I try to be humble. And it came out as imposter syndrome. That word was being used. Can you help me that if I have imposter syndrome, I may not know it, but how do I come over it?
Ladies, which one of you?
That is an overused term. First of all, I obviously have an opinion about it because I got my
Charlotte.
attitude.
Charlotte, like, that's an overused term, and I agree with her, but go ahead and hit it, Charlotte.
Here's the thing. The first thing that I was asked when I became a senior vice president and chief operating officer was, do you have imposter syndrome? And I said, you know what? We have to work 10 times harder. 10 times longer. Prove ourselves before the opportunity arrives. Do you think I have an imposter syndrome?
You don't even have time to create it.
I don't have time to create it, but I know there's a better answer without attitude.
Like Kathleen.
Because I'm more objective.
Yes, a more objective from Kathleen, because Charlie and I are on the same page.
Actually, this job in particular, I doubted myself a lot. I got this job because, they needed I was kind of the interim person in the beginning, and because the previous person left in a rush. And so they said, hey, we really need you to step in. And right away, I got a lot of advice. But the best advice I got was own it. Just because you're interim doesn't mean you don't own it. We expect you to own it. And so I had to step up. So yes, there's doubts that creep in your mind. And there was a lot with me because I thought, gosh, I got to prove myself to get this permanently. and am I good enough?
That's right.
Right? And I said, but then, again, my husband, who gets on my nerves, no, he said,
We love that husband. We love that husband. He's
he
on
said,
it.
hey, they wouldn't have put you in that spot as the interim if you weren't good enough. And so stop questioning yourself and be confident. So it's just I think it's a constant as you grow, you are good enough. And they wouldn't ask you to do it if you weren't. So just own it.
It's better advice.
I love it. Okay, Lauren, I know you got something.
Embrace it. I mean, as I said, I knew when I started engineering that I was behind, so I just work harder. And I know that I work harder. So even if I am not the most smart people in the world, I know I work harder, and I know I study harder, and I know I have imposter syndrome. So guess what? I'm good. I'm really good. Embrace it, acknowledge it, and move forward. Because if being afraid or not knowing something is going to stop you, believe me, there is nothing you can Google it nowadays. So even if you have imposter syndrome, whatever you don't know or you think you don't know, you just Google it. So
Did you say Google and honey, Google and that darn, you know what I'm about to say, YouTube University. Do not play with that, okay? Because I'm in it. I'm a graduate of YouTube University. We're going to keep that real. Because, I think it's so funny. You guys probably see us and you think, oh, they got it together, right? Honey, listen, last night I was in my office till 11 o'clock last night working. You know why? Because I knew I would be here with you today. And it was important that whatever my team needed or what people needed from me, it was done, and I didn't have to answer my phone 20 times because this was more important to me than managing whatever was going on at those 10 different things, right? So bottom line is being a leader is not always what you think it is, like the person who's calling the shots. We have to know our job and everybody else's job. So when you can't do your job, we can step in and fill those shoes. So it's not as easy as you think being us, right? And by the way, my closet is like Garanimals. All of this is on one hanger. Don't fool with it. Okay, I don't want y'all to think I'm taking a skirt from here. It's literally on a hanger, and somebody helped me do this. So if I said, well, Archie, yeah, I'm telling the secret. It's all Garanimals, okay? Like the little kid store, they mix and match. It's all on hangers. This jacket is in a hanger with what I had on earlier was all black. I got an all tan, all gray, all red. This coat is in the same closet so I can wear it with everything. It's Garanimals, trust me. Okay, so I just want to say, with that being said, the other thing is that really plan. I have sticky notes, and I don't know about you guys. I have a notebook on the side of the bed. Our brains don't shut off.
Gosh.
So when you're in a leadership role and conversations are happening, by the way, we're managing our team's conversations and concerns, and we're managing our expectations, which is everyone above us, expectations and concerns. In a lot of our roles, we're also serving the masses. So when you're looking at somebody building all of these different airplanes, helicopters, she's making sure that those people who get in it are safe. It's not just the people on her team because Josephine's baby is sick and all of this is happening. It's, okay, did everybody check this? Is it ready to go? Because if it's not, that's our deadline. Okay, we need to fire that engineer, get another engineer, call MIT, see if they got somebody. You know what I mean? That's a job. And then she got her husband, okay, and the kids. That's a job. Okay, then she got her gal pals. That's a job, right? So understand this, being a woman empowered just does not mean you just get to be you, uniquely you, and walk around and tell people what to do. And by the way, I don't think any of us tell people what to do, though. That's the other myth. I have a team that we work together, and I tell them all the time, I'm just a spokesperson for the team. But we work together. Nobody works for me. We work together. And that's the way I kind of look at things. How do you guys look at it? You guys look at it that
I look
way?
at it the same way. I look at it as an inverted pyramid. Servant leadership.
Yes.
Upside down. I'm down here taking the pain for all of you all.
Yes.
And we're making it happen. I'm with you.
Happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think good leaders, when you look at it from that perspective, plus I'm a sticky note queen, I really started investing in Post-it notes and bought stock in it. We're not going to fool with it because my whole wall in my office is a data wall full of sticky notes. How can I help you?
Hi, everyone. Alexandra. So I have a personal like mantra and things that I tell myself when I'm dealing with really challenging things. I'm really interested in hearing if there's like specific words of wisdoms that you tell yourself when you're dealing with difficult situations or tough conversations, and just imparting with us some of that so we can potentially take it on outside of the space.
Laura, I'll start with you.
Yes, so I learned this from testing vehicles. Many things can go wrong. You don't know. You trust all the team did their work. You trust all the suppliers send the right parts, right? But things can go wrong in the full vehicle. So you get protection, you get a helmet, you get everything. Don't worry about your life, but things can go wrong. There are so many things you can control when you're testing a full vehicle the first time, a prototype that is not out in the market. That what my director teach me, and I hope you can use these words every time you feel trapped in there. You'll figure that out. You'll figure it out. There is so many things you can control. You plan the trip, plan the testing, plan the vehicles, plan the people. You have experts, and something goes wrong. You'll figure it out. Same applies with imposter syndrome. You know already have it. Trust that you will figure that out. It helps the tone too. When I told to my boss my concerns, what if this happens? You'll figure it out. You'll figure that out. It's just a way to tell you it's gonna be fine. You know you have the experience and the basic skills to survive. So you'll get there.
Figure it out. I'm gonna start using that. Okay.
Yeah, honestly, I use meditation. So I have really started on a pretty daily basis, just, my watch, breathing, and taking my mind off of everything because you can get consumed by everything and overwhelmed by it. And you just have to, so that's really how I do it. And I really have to trust my team, and you have to, they're capable as well, and I believe in them. So that's how I kind of manage my my stress, and when I'm gonna have a briefing, to my boss, I try to meditate that day.
I like that. Charlotte?
That's great advice. I need to take that. Usually, what I tell myself and everybody else is, I never fail. I never fail because if you're learning, you're not failing. That's it. If something goes wrong, learn from it and carry that forward. That is the key. Now, that's easy to say when you're not in a life and death situation, right?
Right?
So you obviously need to put that in perspective, but that's how I get through it. And I don't play the whodunit game. When there's a failure, as I was growing, I never allowed people to say, here's the problem and here's who. Nope. We'll definitely do the 5 whys. We'll get to the root cause, and then we're going to take that, learn from it, and improve. That's an excellent question, but I never fail because I'm always learning.
That was a good question. I'd have a sticky, and I always tell them perfection is a perspective, right? Perfection is just perspective. And then I remember the song I used to sing to my son when I used to take him to school. And by the way, my son is 6'4", and he used to sit in the back seat of the car because I told him, until you get a driver's license, you're a kid, so be a kid in the back seat. But I used to look at him in the mirror, and now I say it to myself, you are who you think you are, a superstar, so go rule the world. And I say that to myself every day, and people don't understand. It takes a lot when you have to stand in front of the mayor at any point and he asks you, how many people's lives are you impacting today with the work that you're doing? That's serious. And you know me, I got it all on my sticky notes. Don't fool with those Post-its. I'm ready every day. Anytime I get called to the office, I'm ready because it's on my little sticky notes. And I need to know how many people's lives I'm impacting out of the 640,000 residents, because that's serious business. But I always tell myself when I go to work, you are who you think you are, a superstar. So let's go rule the world.
Can
Next
I add
question?
one more thing?
Yeah.
Also, as a woman in leadership, all eyes are on you. And so I have to really be mindful of my response to, if there's something urgent, something, we make helicopters for a living, and it can be life or death. And so how am I going to respond in a situation where the team is going to be confident in me and know that I've got this under control? And then as a woman too, you kind of get looked at as, oh my gosh, she has just lost control. She's emotional, right? Right. And that's how you gotta get labeled. So I really practice being. Hopefully my team will agree, but
I'm looking at the team.
I really practice, self-control and not responding in what looks like an emotional way.
I agree with her 100%. And that's one of the things as ladies, honestly, I hate to say this, but it's very truth and factual. I don't talk a lot. I observe because most of the times I'm the only woman in the space. And it wasn't until a month or two ago that we were in a meeting and I finally spoke up. And if anybody knows our mayor here, it's not easy for a woman to say something in a space where you're the only woman. And I looked around and I said, well, can I ask one question? And I finished asking my question. At the end of the question, the mayor said, yeah, what she said. That's what I want to know. But the thing is that I never said anything the whole time until that moment. So he didn't even know that I was thinking that way. So a lot of times as women, we can't always respond and react because then it's taken that we're being emotional. So those are the things that I really hate to say, but it's factual. Sometimes you have to watch your tone. You can't speak very quickly in cadence, and you always speak in bullets and make it factual, not emotional. So that's one of the things that I had to learn very quickly. Plus, I have to add humor to it because it kind of makes the guys feel happy. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Tiffany. I'm United States Air Force outside of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. And leadership in the Air Force is huge. They preach it, they push it, they're trying to breed leaders every day. So feedback is something we harp on, trying to get good feedback, negative feedback, anything that's going to be constructive in us becoming better leaders. So have any of you encountered feedback that's always positive, yet you seem to get passed over for promotion, like you're doing a great job, keep doing what you're doing, you're an expert, you're top of your craft, yet you're still getting passed over for promotion? And if that was the case, what are some things that you did to keep pushing yourself on?
Okay, number one, before anybody answers the question, you came up to that mic with such, like, boom, didn't she? She did. I know, I was like, she is in the Army or something, something's happening. She came in like, what? Like the Superwoman pose, kind of like, I was like, y'all better answer that question. No, but I mean, go ahead, ladies. So, I mean, look, do you have a story you like?
Yeah, that's what I changed to what is my superpower. I know I always do a good job, so skip that part. What is my they are, because this is the thing. From the side of leadership, I can tell you, I hate to give bad feedback. I don't like it. When it's negative, I prefer not to say it. It's as scary as much as asking for it. But sometimes you just have to. But I started asking, what is my superpower? And the things that I found in it, I didn't expect them. I never pay attention to it. I didn't know I could do it. One of those was public speaking. I was like, what? I always hated it. And for some reason, people likes to talk to me, and people likes to tell me what the real problem is so I can figure that out. They lie to the managers, but they don't lie to me. So I get to dig into lives. So when you receive negative feedback, I received many through my life. Then I got better mentors that gave me more neutral feedback, like you're really good at this, but we need to work on that. And that's the feedback that I like because, oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't know I do that. And you're right, I lose energy, and then I go back again, and my consistency. So you have to ask for it, but make it easier for the person who is talking to you. But I'm really good at it. And then if they open to you, you can maybe ask. But there should be, nobody's perfect. There should be something else that I could get better to. Always just understand that it's as complicated for you as the receiver as for the person that it has to provide it. Yeah. I don't like to disencourage my team ever. That's what I work based on strengths, because I want for them to be the best on what they do. And I don't like to them, you are so great at this. And then they ask, and what about this other? Oh, do you want to grow on that path? Let's work together, right? But just acknowledge that your leaders are humans too, and they may not like to give you feedback. So you need to open up that conversation with the right wording.
Kathleen?
Yeah, I was going to say sometimes it takes the right mentors to help. And with, I've also been in situations where I've wanted to pursue a position, and mentors have told me, hey, this would be a very, very bad position, very bad decision to make, and it would ruin your career. So there's kind of like some mentors tell you, and you're probably doing an awesome job. I would say you might want to just pursue some other mentors that would, a balance of people.
I have an opinion on this. Succession planning. You're right. Nobody likes to give bad news. Who does, really, unless they're masochistic? So what I've learned is that if you are very clear on your goals and you discuss that with your immediate supervisor or the person that they report to, and you are checking in regularly and asking about these stage gates if they exist, or these milestones if they exist,
Yeah.
asking about those, then how we meet those, what development do I need
Yeah.
to achieve those, bringing that objectivity
Yeah.
to it might just help. Help them, help us. It's a great question. Thank you.
Generic to say you're doing an awesome job.
Right.
Yeah, and always, not all leaders know what you want. Seriously, if I would assume everyone wants to be manager, and that's not true.
Right.
So to get the right feedback, you also have to come through. Okay, I'm good at what I'm doing. I'm great. That's fantastic. But what if I want to take this path? And that helps. That helps a lot.
Thank you.
Great question. Yeah.
So my question is also related to feedback. I think some of you mentioned receiving conflicting feedback. And I think in general, it's easier to recognize your superpower. You know what you're good at, but it's really hard identifying your blind spots. You're blind to them. So when they're revealed to you, it's kind of like, I didn't know I was like that, or I didn't know I had that blind spot. So I tend to feel like with every feedback, there's some truth. But then I keep getting very self-conscious, like, am I doing that? Am I being that person? And how do I prevent, or how do I work with those blind spots?
So I'm going to give you just a quick snapshot of something I had to do because it was really weird and I didn't understand it. I had to one of my mentors, Dr. Dave Pointer, said, videotape yourself, right? And I kept saying, why? He said, because you're doing things repetitively that you don't see that may be giving people the wrong, impression, right? Or I'm using gestures and stuff like that. I kept saying, this is insane. I know I'm not doing it, right? You can't see yourself. And he kept saying, you can't see yourself. But it wasn't until I videotaped myself, then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing that? So what I'm going to say is everything in life, you can't videotape yourself. So what you do is always find a point person that's always going to be honest with you. So after you speak to your leaders, like one of us, go to that point person, say, listen, one of the things I got feedback on is that I'm consistently doing this or doing that. I need to know, real talk, is this what's happening? And let that person just kind of give you feedback on their perspective. Take their feedback, put it in your words, and go back to your boss, to one of them, and say, listen, you're right. This is what I'm doing. What advice can you provide to me so that I can redirect myself? I do not want this to impact my growth, right? A lot of times they'll give you things to read, things like that. They might send you to YouTube University, tell you to Google it, get you a book from Amazon. But the point is that you've got time to correct that. So everybody, none of us, like I still videotape myself. right? Because I know I have little things that I do. So it's not being perfect, it's just being uniquely you and understanding what you're great at, and then having enough greatness to make the other things not look so, you know what I mean? Like they don't have to be highlighted and stand out so much, okay? And that was a great question too.
You may be receiving the feedback, you just don't like it.
Exactly.
I once received a comment that I don't know if it's good or bad, but in one of my meetings, things heated up, and I said, you know what, we're closing this meeting and we're gonna discuss offline, and when we get an agreement, we come back to have a real meeting. So I heard one of my peers talking with another guy about it, and when I approached them, and he tells him, and you know what happened? Laura is fired. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, fire like I warm you in the winter, or fire like I can destroy the building? So sometimes people is telling you things, and you don't want to listen. Those are your blind spots. You know it's there, it bothers you. So what I do about feedback is, even when it's a gift, I know sometimes I won't like it, so I write it down. And when I am calmed down, when I am in a different place, where I'm very excited, very happy, I read it again and I think, you may be right.
Yeah, they see things that you may not see. Yeah, thank you, that was a great question.
Yeah.
Eric told me, last person, he said 5 minutes, and that's it. I feel like I should go Dougie Fresh, come on. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This is Pame. I'm Ecuadorian. So, Laura, Viva Mexico!
Oh.
Any more Spanish here in the room? Anyways, my question is going to be super quick. I was the one who didn't raise the hand when said, who wants to go into leadership? My hand wasn't up. So here's my question to you guys. And I know that, Laura, you shared a little bit about that. When was the moment that you decided, okay, well, I guess I'll try it. I'll try leadership. What made you decide it? What changed in your mind?
So this is very uncomfortable. I had this peer who just started working in the US, and he went and asked for the position as manager, and I was like, you have little experience, but okay. And they had other candidates, and when they ran out of candidates, they gave him the chance. And I was like in shock, like, so wait a minute, you just asked for it. Hopefully it happens, and then you just take it? Is that it? And then a lot of people told me, hey, why didn't you get that position? You're great for it. Well, to start with, I didn't ask for it. I don't know if I want it. And that kept me thinking about it and thinking about it, like, wait, I am usually called the leader, and they usually give me projects, additional projects, just because I can convince people. What if I just take the title? Talking to the other director, talking to my manager, he told me, you're more than ready. We were waiting for you. So I just had to ask. And in saying it aloud, I realized I really wanted it. And when I jump into it, it's a different journey. It's so different. There's so many things that nobody can explain to you, because once you are in the other side of the table, you're like, oh, so this is it. But
You want to run back to the other side.
that was the point. I had to see other story, how it happened. And then I thought, then it shouldn't be that complicated. I can get it done too. And it was most about honesty with myself. Do I want to do this? Do I want to jump into it? It's not about the title. It's not about that. It's about serving others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a great question. Thank you so much.
Is it fair if you just do it for the money? Somebody once said that.
Of course, the money is important.
Oh, woo!
Okay, and I do apologize. This will be our last question because Eric is about to give us the hook.
Hi, Stacy Richburg, Boyne, South Carolina. I just have one question. I think you guys...
So you see how she'd throw that in there, Boyne, South Carolina?
Because, I
Go
got to put
ahead,
us on the
honey.
map. We're,
Go ahead.
we're
She's
growing, so I
Boeing.
got to put us out there. So you guys touch on a lot of answers to my question, but for me is a confidence thing. So I'm, being the only one in the room, the African-American female, how do you get past that point? Like, for me, my teams probably feel like when she's on the floor, I got it. I go out there, talk to everybody, but when I get upstairs in the room with my other senior leaders, I notice myself, I shut down because, all males, and, I just shut down, and I can't figure out how to get past that. And I don't know, over the years since I moved up, I lost my confidence, and I just can't figure out how do I get past that. Like, I'm in the room, but don't be emotional with my responses, and because of those reasons, I don't give responses. And I have an awesome director because he'll pull me in, and when they're conversating, he'll be like, Stacey, what do you think? And I'll be like, okay, let me answer this, and I have to think before I speak, but just how do I do that? How do I go in there and be confident and instead of thinking, well, that's what I was thinking, but I didn't say it, how do I just say it?
One way, if it's
Pick on Charlotte.
one way I've done that is to socialize an idea before the meeting.
Yep.
So if you're blessed enough to have a pre-read before the meeting, or at least know what the objective of the meeting is, you can prepare, and for the key people, you can't talk to everybody at the meeting, but the key people who are going to be at that meeting, who are the decision makers, have a pre-meeting with them.
Yes.
And talk about the subject of the meeting before you even get there. So now you already know what they're thinking, and they just might, based on your conversation, pull you in anyway, and you'll already know what to say. It'll just be so natural, but it's this notion of socialization prior to the meeting, if you have that luxury.
That's key, what she just said, being able to socialize your ideas.
Yeah, it's like building build your sponsors. That's pretty much it. When you are able to talk with everyone else offline, when you get to the meeting, it's all digested. And maybe they're at the beginning, they're going to speak for you. When you get a little bit of trouble, they're going to jump in and help you.
Call you out.
Exactly. So build your sponsors before the meeting. Just try to buy them a little bit, show your idea, socialize it, as she said. It works pretty much on every industry. It's how we get it done. And many VPs and directors are going to tell you, you come here just to present in this short little time. So being prepared is being talking with all the team members and all the stakeholders that will support your idea.
Kathleen?
Great question.
We'll talk offline if we don't have time.
No, we have time, Kathleen.
Okay.
Eric is not.
Yeah, when Eric comes right here at the side of the stage, that means it's over, when he's right here.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're already at the table. You're a leader. All I can say is it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. I just had a 360 done on myself. My peers, direct reports, my boss. I got feedback that I don't speak up enough in my peer leadership team meetings. I run a division, and I'm getting told I'm not speaking up enough, right? I'm an introvert, and I like to observe, but I got to step out of that zone sometimes because I have a seat at the table, and I got to make my opinion known. So I tell you, it takes practice. It's not perfection, and you're never going to be right 100% of the time, but you can't let it knock you back. You got to keep going at it.
And a little secret, they feel the same about us. Last year, Dr. Donnabell asked us for a group of women to come to the conference for the first time, and we took the material to share it with the rest of the company during lunch and learn sessions. And the first few meetings we had in a room, some people were like, what are you so many women in a meeting room? What are you planning? Oh, is that scary for you? How convenient. So now you get it. Now you get it. Every single day we come to this office and we are segregated in the corners and all we see around is men. So you get it, right? And when you are having these talks about investment and such and we approach you and you stop, we're like, oh, come on. Right? So acknowledge that they feel the same. You own the table, it's your turn. So just use it, and as they say, just practice it. It takes time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I wanted to say thank you so much for attending this session. We know you guys are going to run and grab something to eat. Be sure to rate this session if you have your app. We would really appreciate your feedback, and you can find each one of us on LinkedIn if you would like to connect with us. Thank you, and have a great evening, ladies.